The mansion was a gilded cage, its opulence masking the suffocating despair that consumed me daily. My name is Lama, and I'm trapped not by bars or chains, but by fear, manipulation, and the cruel whims of a man who believes he owns me. Every word he speaks cuts deeper than any blade, mocking, belittling, reducing me to nothing more than a puppet dancing on strings pulled by his merciless hands. He calls it love. I call it torment. His laughter echoes through the halls like a haunting melody, reminding me of my helplessness. Every night I retreat to my room, a prison within a prison, where silence becomes both my ally and my enemy. But tonight was different. The air felt heavier, charged with an ominous energy as music drifted through the darkness. It wasn't just background noise, it was his signal. That chilling tune signaled another late-night intrusion into my already shattered peace. As the notes reverberated off the cold walls, a horrifying realization struck me. This might be my last chance to escape. If I stayed, I would suffer the same fate as his two previous wives, women whose names are whispered in hushed tones among the staff. Women who vanished without explanation. Were they dead? Buried somewhere no one would ever find them? Or worse, locked away in some hidden corner of this sprawling estate? I couldn't shake the thought that I was next. Maybe he'd rewrite his will tomorrow, adding my name alongside theirs. Perhaps I'd disappear too, becoming another ghost haunting these halls. My heart pounded so loudly I feared he could hear it from downstairs. The weight of desperation pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. Escape wasn't just an option anymore, it was survival. Yet every door led to danger, every shadow concealed betrayal. And then there was him, the man who claimed to adore me, yet treated me like property. How could I outwit someone so calculating, so ruthless? But amidst the dread, something flickered inside me, a spark of defiance. I refused to become another footnote in his twisted legacy. Tonight, I decided, would mark the beginning of my rebellion or the end of everything. Dylan was more than just a bodyguard. He was the gatekeeper to my salvation or my doom. Every move I made, every step toward freedom, seemed to pass through his watchful eyes first. He stood between me and the outside world like an impenetrable fortress, his presence both a comfort and a curse. On that fateful night, after hearing the haunting melody echo through the mansion's halls, I realized time was running out. If I didn't act now, I'd be buried alive in this gilded prison forever. Summoning every ounce of courage, I approached him, trembling with fear but determined not to let it show. "I know the password to the vault," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. "It's filled with enough money for you to live like a king for the rest of your life. All I need is your help to escape." My words hung heavy in the air, met with Dylan's icy silence. His piercing gaze bore into me as if trying to peel back the layers of my soul. For a moment, I thought he might laugh in my face or worse, turn me over to him. But then slowly, almost imperceptibly, his expression shifted. Not to kindness, but something colder, darker. "You have 1 minute to convince me," he said finally, his tone devoid of emotion. The weight of his indifference crushed me. Was he weighing his options? Would he betray me the moment I revealed too much? Panic clawed at my chest, but I forced myself to hold his stare. This was no ordinary man. He was someone who thrived in shadows, someone used to keeping secrets. And as I looked deeper into his eyes, I saw it. A flicker of pain, a fragment of a past he desperately tried to bury. It wasn't just about the money for him. There was something else driving him, something sinister lurking beneath the surface. That's when it hit me. He wasn't merely guarding the house. He was guarding himself. What had brought him here? Who was he really protecting? Before I could ask, he cut me off. "Tell me where the vault is, and we'll see." His words were sharp, final. Yet even as he agreed to help, I couldn't shake the feeling that our alliance was built on shifting sands. Trust was a luxury neither of us could afford, and every second spent together felt like dancing on the edge of a blade. One wrong move, and we'd both fall into the abyss. Dylan wasn't a man of many words, but his actions spoke volumes. His eyes followed me everywhere, watchful, calculating, yet strangely protective. It was as if he had taken it upon himself to guard me, even when I doubted his intentions. At first, I thought it was all part of some twisted game, another layer to his enigmatic persona. But then there were moments that made me question everything. The way his hand instinctively reached out to steady me when my legs gave out from exhaustion, or the fleeting look of concern in his eyes whenever I stumbled. He didn't say anything, but his silence carried weight, a quiet reassurance that felt both comforting and unsettling. One night, as we crept through the shadowy corridors of the mansion, disaster struck. A group of henchmen appeared out of nowhere, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like knives. My heart froze. I could hear their voices growing louder, closer. Panic surged through me as I realized they were closing in. Without hesitation, Dylan pushed me behind him, shielding me with his body. "Stay low," he whispered harshly before stepping into the open, deliberately drawing their attention away from me. The sound of fists colliding echoed through the hallway as Dylan fought them off 1 against 4. Each punch landed with brutal precision, but the odds were stacked against him. Blood trickled down his temple, his breathing ragged, yet he refused to back down. Watching him fight for me, risking his life without a second thought, something inside me shifted. For the first time since being trapped in this nightmare, I felt protected, not by sheer force, but by genuine sacrifice. When the last henchman fell unconscious, Dylan turned to me, his face pale but resolute. "Move," he ordered, gripping my arm firmly and pulling me forward. But despite his heroics, doubts lingered in my mind. Why was he doing this? Was it truly for me, or was I just a pawn in his larger scheme? The treasure vault loomed over our fragile alliance, its promise of wealth casting a shadow over every interaction. Did he care about saving me, or was he simply using me to unlock riches beyond imagination? His refusal to explain his motives only deepened my unease. Every glance, every touch left me torn between gratitude and suspicion. In those rare moments when he let his guard down, I caught glimpses of vulnerability, a flicker of pain in his gaze, a hesitation in his movements, but these fragments only added to the mystery surrounding him. As much as I wanted to trust him, fear held me back. Was Dylan my savior, or merely another predator wearing a different mask? The forest behind the mansion was supposed to be our salvation, a dark, tangled labyrinth where we could disappear forever. But as Dylan and I stumbled through the underbrush, adrenaline coursing through our veins, reality struck with brutal force. A group of mobsters emerged from the shadows, their flashlights slicing through the night like knives. My breath hitched in my throat. They weren't just patrolling, they were hunting us. "Stay close," Dylan hissed, pushing me behind him once again. His voice was steady, but I could see the tension in his clenched jaw. Chaos erupted moments later. The mobsters lunged at us without warning, and Dylan didn't hesitate. He fought with a ferocity that left me stunned, each punch, each calculated move designed to protect me at any cost. But even his strength had limits. One of them landed a blow to his ribs, and he staggered backward, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Panic surged through me as another grabbed my arm, dragging me toward their vehicle. With a primal scream, Dylan tackled him, sending both men crashing to the ground. By the time the fight ended, we were both battered and bleeding, gasping for air amidst the wreckage of what should have been our escape. Desperation clawed at my chest as we limped toward the car hidden deep in the woods, the one Dylan swore would get us out of here. But when we reached it, my heart sank. The sleek black sedan was nothing more than a pile of twisted metal, its engine smoking, tires slashed. Someone had destroyed it deliberately, leaving us stranded. Rain began to pour down in sheets, soaking us to the bone as thunder cracked overhead. We exchanged a glance, unspoken terror passing between us. There was no turning back now. "Keep moving," Dylan rasped, gripping my wrist tightly as we pushed forward into the storm. Every step felt heavier than the last, exhaustion weighing us down like chains. And then disaster struck again. In my haste to keep up, I tripped over an exposed root, landing hard on the muddy ground. Pain shot through my knees, but it was nothing compared to the icy dread that gripped me when I realized what I'd lost. The USB, the tiny device containing the location of the treasure vault, had slipped from my pocket during the fall. Frantically, I searched the mud, my hands trembling as rain blurred my vision. It was gone. Our only bargaining chip, our only hope for freedom, vanished into the chaos of the forest floor. The edge of freedom was so close I could almost taste it sweet, intoxicating, and achingly within reach. But as I stumbled through the forest, rain soaking my clothes and mud clinging to my legs, something stopped me dead in my tracks. A faint flicker of light pierced through the trees, a flashlight beam bouncing erratically between the trunks. My breath caught as realization dawned. Dylan was still out there, fighting alone against an enemy that vastly outnumbered him. I could hear the distant sounds of struggle, muffled shouts, and the sickening thud of fists meeting flesh. He had risked everything for me, shielded me with his own body when we were ambushed, and now he was sacrificing himself again. I stood frozen, torn between the instinct to save myself and the unbearable guilt of leaving him behind. The thought of Dylan lying broken on the forest floor, surrounded by those merciless men, made my stomach churn. I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave him. Turning back felt like stepping into a trap, but staying would mean abandoning the only person who had ever shown me kindness in this nightmare. Summoning every ounce of courage, I retraced my steps, heart pounding with each crunch of leaves beneath my feet. When I finally reached the mansion, dragging myself through the front door, the air inside was suffocating. His laughter greeted me before I even saw him, cold, mocking, triumphant. "Ah, Lana," he purred, circling me like a predator closing in on its prey. "Did you really think you could escape me? You belong to me forever." His words slithered over me like venom, paralyzing and cruel. My skin crawled as his gaze lingered, possessive and unyielding. Then came the cruelest blow. With a smirk, he revealed what awaited Dylan. "Your precious protector won't be around much longer. He's been detained. If you don't behave, I'll make sure he gets exactly what he deserves." The image of Dylan chained, bloodied, and at the mercy of this monster flashed through my mind. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall, not in front of him. His laughter echoed through the halls, sharp and derisive, as if mocking my futile attempts to break free. For the first time, I understood the full weight of his power. It wasn't just control, it was domination. And now, thanks to my decision to return, Dylan's life hung precariously in the balance. The man's voice was like ice cold and unyielding as he revealed his plans for me. "You'll be joining my collection of traitors," he sneered, his lips curling into a cruel smile. "In the basement by the lake where all those who dare defy me end up." My blood ran cold at the thought of being locked away in that dark, suffocating hole. He went on to describe it with pride, how victims before me had screamed and begged for mercy, only to meet their ends in silence. It wasn't just imprisonment, it was torture, humiliation, death. The room seemed to shrink around me as his words sank in. I could almost hear the echoes of past cries reverberating through the walls. He leaned back in his chair, savoring the moment, and began recounting his years of deceit, how he built his empire on lies, blackmail, and fear. His eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he boasted about manipulating everyone around him, crushing anyone who stood in his way. "No one escapes me," he declared, his tone dripping with arrogance. "Not even you, Lana." His gaze bore into mine, daring me to challenge him. But defiance felt impossible under the weight of his control. Every word he spoke reminded me of how powerless I truly was, or so I thought. Then, amidst the chaos swirling inside my mind, I stumbled upon something extraordinary. While searching for a way out of the mansion earlier that day, I'd found an old recorder hidden beneath a loose floorboard. At first, I dismissed it as insignificant, but now, listening closely, I realized its true value. The recording captured everything: his crimes, his confessions, every vile act he'd committed over the years. It was undeniable proof of his guilt, enough to bring him down once and for all. But with this discovery came an impossible choice. Should I risk everything, my life, Dylan's life, to expose him? Or should I stay silent, clinging to whatever fragile safety I still possessed? My hands trembled as I held the device, the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. If I acted, there was no guarantee of success. Failure would mean certain death. Yet staying quiet meant letting him continue his reign of terror unchecked. The clock ticked louder in my ears, each second amplifying the urgency of my decision. Could I summon the courage to fight back, or would fear keep me trapped forever? The final moments felt like an eternity compressed into seconds. I stood frozen in the dimly lit hallway, my fingers hovering over the alarm panel embedded in the wall. This was at the point of no return. If I activated the system, every police car within miles would converge on the mansion, their sirens wailing and lights flashing. But so too would chaos erupt inside. The man who had tormented me for so long would unleash his wrath, and Dylan and I would be caught in the crossfire, a deadly game of survival against overwhelming odds. My heart pounded violently as I weighed the options, each breath shallow and labored. Dylan's voice broke through my paralysis. "Do it," he urged, his tone resolute despite the fear flickering in his eyes. "We've come too far to back down now." His words ignited something deep within me, a spark of defiance that refused to be extinguished. He wasn't just urging me to act. He was reminding me why we were fighting: for freedom, for justice, for lives worth living. With trembling hands, I pressed the button. A shrill blare pierced the air, echoing through the mansion like a war cry. Almost instantly, the house erupted into pandemonium. Footsteps thundered down the corridors, doors slammed, and shouts filled the space around us. Then came the unmistakable sound of gunfire, sharp cracks reverberating off the walls as bullets tore through the air. Dylan pulled me behind a heavy oak table, shielding me with his body as shards of glass rained down upon us. Through the chaos, I realized what true strength meant, not just surviving, but risking everything to protect someone else. Tears streamed down my face as I screamed, my voice cutting through the cacophony. There's a word for being strong enough to save another. It's called courage. The irony wasn't lost on me. For months, I'd felt powerless, trapped in a nightmare with no escape. Yet here I was, choosing to fight back, even if it meant sacrificing myself. As the sound of approaching sirens grew louder, hope mingled with dread. Were they coming to rescue us, or to witness our downfall? Another volley of shots rang out, closer this time, and I clung to Dylan, praying we'd make it out alive. The last thing I heard before everything faded into darkness was the screech of tires outside and the relentless echo of gunfire. Would we survive? Or had this been our final stand? Music was more than just a backdrop in this twisted tale. It was a living, breathing entity that shaped the mood of every scene. Each time its haunting melody filled the air, my heart raced with anticipation, knowing something monumental was about to unfold. The slow, mournful chords mirrored my own despair, echoing the loneliness and pain I felt trapped within those gilded walls. When Dylan and I shared fleeting moments of connection, the music swelled softly, as if cradling our fragile bond. But when danger loomed, the tempo shifted sharp. Relentless beats pounded through the silence like war drums, amplifying the chaos around us. One night, as we prepared to escape, the music crescendoed into an urgent rhythm, each note vibrating with tension. It wasn't just sound, it was a countdown to survival or ruin. Then came the quieter pieces, melancholic yet tender, underscoring the bittersweetness of our alliance. As Dylan shielded me from the mobster's wrath, the somber tune seemed to whisper his unspoken resolve. Music became both ally and adversary, heightening emotions until they spilled over the edge of endurance. Every crescendo reminded me we are running out of time,